Oh my gosh, what time is it? Am I too late for love? John Lundvik, he ain't too late for love. He's just won Melodifestivalen 2019 in Sweden, and he's headed to the Eurovision Song Contest. Shall we talk about it?
Let's do this!
Oh, you guys. Hey, Sverige, and hello, Robin in New Zealand and Angus in London. We have just watched Melodifestivalen in 2019. John Lundvik has won in a landslide with his gospel-inspired number, Too Late for Love. Robin, you're the furthest away, so let's bring you in first. What do you think of the song?
It's a really good choice for the winner. It sort of feels like when you watch the show back, when you see the results coming through, it was a clean sweep with both the international juries and the Swedish televote. It feels like, who else could it have been? He's such a nice guy. It's such a strong song. It feels like a really good choice for Sweden at Eurovision. And the thing that I'm most excited about is whenever Melodifestivalen, the winner, has been the favourite of both the televote and the jury, it's gone on to do well at Eurovision. So Loreen, Mons, they both topped both of them. In other years, there's been a split, and it tends to do less well. Last year, it was unanimous with Benjamin, but we'll just forget about that. But yeah, it seems like a good choice. It'll do well. And I kind of think with Russia slipping down to second in the betting odds, will they now be in third place?
One to watch for sure. I have to echo Robin's sentiments. I think this is a really good choice for Sweden. I also am prepared and aware for the fact that I think there's going to be a deluge of people saying, is Sweden really doing anything that different this year? It's another male vocalist with kind of a pop-ready radio song. But I actually think this is totally different. Like, I think the criticism, if you look at the accents Mons, like we have said it on wiwibloggs, other commentators comment on it, is this issue of soul and the fact that Sweden has such a fantastic music industry that oftentimes pop can sound too manufactured and artists don't have kind of soul or character or presence stage. John Lundvik has such charisma. I personally hated the song last year, did not like it, but he certainly was selling it and going for it. And I think you can see his joy when he performs on stage. Like, it feels fresh. And he does hit all his marks, he does hit all his notes, but it doesn't feel over-rehearsed, which I think is the thing of someone like, like a Benjamin Ingrosso or a Robin Bengtsson. Much as I love both of them, they felt quite stilted and robotic on stage, whereas this has life, this has soul, and this is something different for Sweden to do. Like, I think it's a great sound. As Robin says, television juries both went for this in a big way. And I think this is going to be very dangerous at Eurovision. I think people who have written Sweden off and are kind of asking if we're fatigued are going to be in for a surprise when we get to Tel Aviv.
Yes, this is stage ready. I think that of all the acts, this just felt the most complete visually. I love the darkness. He emerges from the darkness. There's that strip of light, like a bikini strip of golden light. It's just really touching. It's almost like, I don't know, he's in the darkness and he sees the light, which fits with the gospel feel, the soulful feel of this. I say this a lot, but it's very Ebenezer Baptist Church, Atlanta, Martin Luther King, honey. This is where I'm from. I know this sound, and he does it well. It doesn't feel fake. This feels very real, gospel inspired, and yet sometimes that kind of music turns people off, but this doesn't turn off mainstream masses because it's produced in a way that's so contemporary and modern. I think that it's not futuristic, but something about the way they shoot it makes the stage look so big, almost like a spaceship, like he's an alien. I'm spewing out a lot of stuff here, all to say the staging is on point. I'm looking at the odds right now on Eurovision Odds Checker. It's a sea of blue. His odds are narrowing as we speak. Sergei Lazarev, Russia, for instance, is at 4-1, and now John Lundvik is at 5-1. So it's really narrowing. So by the time we publish this video, who knows, he could be second already. to be honest, like, this is not a song I would ever download, but it's a song, if I heard it in a movie, if I heard it at the shopping mall, if I heard it on the radio, I would happily listen to it. There's something likable about it. And I don't mean that as a slight. It's just not my style of music. But when it's put in front of me, I'm into it. And so that could help him at Eurovision, right? Because this music will be put in front of people with all sorts of different tastes, and it can still win them over. How do you think this will do at Eurovision, Robin?
That's a good point about the kind of music you listen to versus the kind of music that does well at Eurovision. Because I'm kind of thinking that for me, Azerbaijan is probably closest to the kind of music that I would have on a Spotify playlist. But I don't think it's a Eurovision winner. Whereas something like this, I could see, if not winning, then top 3 easily. It's something that it's really uplifting. It's going to be amazing to see it live and in front of a big audience. And I think it's the sort of thing that, you're watching the show, maybe you might be feeling, it's been a long evening, you're feeling a bit, you just need a lift, and then along comes John with his gospel choir, and suddenly it's like, yes, that's the kind of thing that it could bring to it. And I think that is why it would be a really strong Eurovision entry.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for Eurovision, as I said, I do think this is going to be dangerous and a challenger. I mean, I think the hard thing the past few years has been that the assumption is that in the last semi-final, the last song is the best of the competition. And a lot of people have kind of fallen under that expectation. So Molly Sandén, 2016, 2017, I forget who was in that slot.
Loreen.
Oh, yes, of course, Loreen's Statements, which we all know what happened there. So a lot of acts have kind of struggled to meet the expectation, but he actually didn't buckle under and kept going. And I think there's a real joy to this that maybe has not been there in previous Swedish entries. He gets to that last kind of reprise of the chorus and that build, like all the light goes down, then it explodes and it's all joy and anthemic and personal. So I think that quality will really help it on stage. Whether this is a winner or not, I'm not necessarily that sure, because I think it's interesting. He certainly had the momentum going into it to win Melfest, but I also think the thing with Loreen and Mons that we saw was instantly the minute their songs came out and they started with momentum, the Eurovision winner chat started, whereas John Lundvik, I don't feel like I've seen that much chatter. And at least statistically, I think it's interesting if you look at the televote scores, because the margin in 2015 and 2012 between the lowest televote score and the highest, which was the eventual winner, was quite a lot larger than it was in 2019. And I think it's the kind of thing of you have to get a certain quantity of landslide from the Swedish public for it to feel like a Eurovision winner. So I don't know if that's that, but I do think this is kind of in the Sanna Nielsen range of, we're aiming for a top 3 at the very least. I think this will be super competitive. The stage ready thing is so true as well, because I think a lot of songs, we look at them in the national final and it's like, that was cute, but what are you going to do to elevate it for this stage and tell it even do better? Whereas this is already in fighting form and fit. But I don't know, I feel like I need to be convinced on its winning potential, shall we say.
Yeah, looking at the top 7 in the betting odds at the moment, Netherlands, Russia, Sweden, Switzerland, Cyprus, Italy, Iceland, I feel like besides Iceland, Sweden is the only act where we've seen the staging, that we know what's going to happen. Netherlands, Russia, we don't know. Switzerland, we don't know. Cyprus, we don't know. Italy, we've seen something, but presumably that would change for the bigger stage at Eurovision. So yeah, you say he's a safe bet in a way because we've already seen it. What I like about this performance, there are 2 things I want to bring up. First is his joy. He just seems to be so joyous and happy. All the interviews I've seen with him on wiwibloggs.com, on our YouTube channel at wiwibloggs, he's so happy and so friendly and so kind. And our guys in Sweden right now, Tobias, hey, Kevin, hey, and Sinan, hey, y'all are slaying, and Ron, hey, did I say him? They all have had such positive things to say about John Lundvik, and they're all very different personalities. The next point, which Robin actually brought up before, is the diversity of this year's Swedish final. The male group Aravigna, Rutabaga, yeah. They were the only white men in the contest. Everyone else is so, representing all faces of Sweden. It's great to see.
So the really interesting thing is that John joins Laurel Baker as having 2 songs or multiple songs in Eurovision. She's got 3. He's now got 2 because he co-wrote the UK song. In fact, he told us when we interviewed him that the UK song was actually first submitted to Melodifestivalen, but the Melfest submission jury were like, no, we like Too Late for Love better. So, yeah, I assume he's going to sit on the Swedish couch and not the UK couch. But, you know, it's going to be an interesting having them both in the competition doesn't make the UK song feel second best. But he said when we talked to him about it that it's just such a great honour for him to have, potentially at that time, to have two songs in, and it definitely, he didn't see it as a negative. It was just a huge achievement and a huge honour for him.
I loved how shocked he looked, even though he was the bookies' odds-on favorite in Sweden. When you see all the grabs, he's like, he was really surprised, and it's so refreshing because I think sometimes in the past, winners have kind of known they were going to win, and they had
2015. Yeah, Mons did not look surprised, but it was like
he relieved.
Yeah, you could see it coming. But in this case, you kind of could too. But he did genuinely seem to be appreciating the moment. So that was
absolutely
nice.
I mean, the humility is all the sweeter as well, because actually, I mean, Lorena Mans did not win all of the international juries in their year, whereas I think John Lundvik actually took the whole set.
Row of gold.
I don't know if it's the first time that's happened, but it's nice that, as you say, like, he is humble about it and did not anticipate this coming. But also, I mean, that in itself is a ringing endorsement, because, you know, you see in years gone by, like, the UK jury in particular normally goes for something a bit left field.
Yeah.
But, you know, none of the other acts came close in the jury's eyes, which is always a good marker, at least for the jury votes, I think.
The UK jury gave their 10 points to Arvingana, so they still got to get in there with something a bit unexpected.
God help us all. Just kidding. I love a group of daddies. Now, look, there was actually a tie in terms of overall second place. Hannah Furman-Liamu and Bashara both had 107, but of course Bashara came second in the televote. I mean, he's popular on YouTube, right, with a new generation of voters. And
Instagram.
Forgive me. He's Insta famous, y'all. But I loved the final shot when it was the two of them next to each other. And Bashara was so, like, just very sweet and, like, innocent. That song, I don't like the register. It reminds me of Michael Jackson as a kid. And, like, for just many reasons, which we don't need to go into, that has different connotations now. And so that sound, I don't know. I'm just not into that sound. But I think he's very talented, and he is one to watch for the future. I loved Hannah Furman-Liamu. I think of the top three, that's the song I would download. It's like the Ellen Nikki for a new generation. It's cheesy as F, but I love it. And I think they have chemistry, and I think they look great together.
Yeah, that was... They really sold that song as well as it needed to be sold. They had the duet thing. Like Christy Buchman said that a duet you have to have a couple looking at each other, but they can't spend too much time looking at each other because then it feels like they're not connecting with the audience. And that was like the magic ratio to get. And I think they got the staging working really well. It was like, yes, you guys are a hot couple. You're working it. This deserves to do well. And I think it's going to be a hit for them in the charts.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, the other two in the top two, because I did not like either of those songs or performances going into tonight. However, I can see why they did so well and won me over. I think Hannah Furman-Liamu, they'd done a ton of work on that. Like, all the camera angles had changed. The chemistry felt a lot better. I don't like that song still. I just felt it wasn't as strong. Like, it was very kind of wet. I kept wanting more from it and some oomph. And it wasn't really that. And Bashara equally, I found that song a little bit tiresome and junior Eurovision-y in that sense. Like, it felt it would have been the kind of thing that'd be spectacular in that competition, but wasn't here. However, he's incredibly talented. And also tonight, again, he was so much better. Like, you really see the difference between the semi-final and the final in those two performances. And as I say, like, they were not my favorites tonight and they weren't my favorites going in, but I totally see why they did so well.
So the next group, I guess, fourth place, we had another tie. It was Mohambi and John Henrik Falgren, but then John Henrik had the higher televote score, so he would technically be the winner, I guess, if we go by that. I really love John Henrik Falgren's staging. I think they gave him nothing to work with. Like, he had among the least elaborate staging. It's like, here's some fire, and here's a picture of a moose. Go slay. But he did slay. This was so unique. This was like... if Kano in Norway are kind of the Eurodance Sammy, this is the more spiritual Sammy. It's still made modern and poppy, but I found it very accessible. I think it's quite beautiful when you see like a indigenous Swede, I guess you could say, a Sami, competing and performing in front of Swedes who are not of that, tradition of that region. I find it very touching, and he killed it. He sounded great. I loved his little shimmy in the bridge, and I loved that moose. Some people said the moose looked cheap, but I think when you know he's a reindeer herder and like he has a special connection, you can get past the cheese.
Yeah, completely. Oh, sorry.
It's a reindeer traffic jam.
Go, Robin,
so
go.
let's start down south.
I was going to say, he was born in Colombia and adopted by a Sami family. So that kind of brings a really interesting other sort of angle to it. And yeah, but he's a really good performer, and it feels like maybe this should have been his year, but there was stiffer competition. Who knows if John Lundvik hadn't been there, it could have been time for some Colombian Sami reindeer herder realness. The staging was really good, and I've seen people say that Kano from Norway should steal his staging, because that's the kind of thing it needs, rather than, because it was quite dark and it didn't really have enough impact. So maybe, I don't know, maybe they'll take some ideas. Maybe we'll see a Norwegian reindeer on stage.
Yeah, completely. Oh, sorry. Go on.
I was just thinking about, the other one was Mohambi, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do we want to talk about John Henrik, or should we?
Oh yeah, Angus.
Oh, sure. Oh, God, yeah. I messed this up. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. You good.
Yes, I mean, Jon Henrik, this was actually, when I heard it, I thought this song was going to win in semi-final 3, so egg on my face on that regard. I thought the staging with this was really beautiful, particularly that whole mystical element where he's kind of dancing and swirling was so... That was like a spiritual, beautiful moment, which also, to the point about kind of Sweden sending similar songs, that would have quantifiably been something different, I think. Yeah. However, his slot in the running order really did not help him, and also staging, I do think he was shortchanged on. I mean, that moment with the reindeer was proper magic, and also is pure, like, the Eurovision stuff of dreams that kind of, for that one night in May, for the casual viewer, is the kind of thing that would have stuck in minds. I mean, impactful. Alas, it seems not his year. Although, again, I mean, he performed incredibly strongly on the televote for where he had performed from. So you do wonder, again, like, were he on in a different spot in the running order? Were Jon Lundvik not there? What would have happened? Alas, tonight was just not his night.
We say hello to Mohambi with the song Hello. I think this is very radio friendly. I really like the sound. I think his vocal was better now. In the semi, I was like, he was off a bit, I thought, vocally, whereas tonight I thought it was pretty spot on. Yeah, it's a solid entry. I would download this. I don't think it would have done as well as at Eurovision as John Lundvik. Make of that what you will.
Yeah, when I saw it in the first semi-final, it was like, yeah, this is a really good song, and I could see it doing really well at Melfest. But then, sort of in the weeks that followed, I got a bit tired of it, even though I wasn't even listening to it. And when I saw it tonight, it was just like, that's good. I think maybe in the context of the whole semi-final, it just wasn't, for me at least, it wasn't popping as much. But yeah, he did well with the televote, so I think it's going to be a local hit for him at least.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the semi-final, he just did not hit a single falsetto note, and it was really obvious and exposed, which was unfortunate. Whereas tonight, he was a lot stronger. You know, he hit the notes. Also, his choreography just seemed to be more on his mark, and I think this is like a big pop kind of radio friendly song. Equally, my take on it was that really having Lena Hoodland straight after kind of stole his thunder a little bit, because I think that was another high energy song, and also where perhaps we have seen, you know, that kind of Mon Zelmerlöw matching the person dancing on screen element for. something about having a straight after another high energy pop song with lots of dancing, whatever, just took the energy out of it a little bit, which I think is perhaps why he was lost a little bit in the running order tonight. But I agree. I think this will be a massive, Spotify hit. I mean, it already is, but will be, run on the charts, just perhaps was not going to go to Eurovision tonight.
Then we have 3 acts scoring 64 points in total. Nano with Chasing Rivers, Victoria with Not With Me, Aravinha with I Do. So I guess you could say they're all in 6th place. Yeah, Nano did really well with the juries. Wasn't he 2nd with the jury? And then he did quite poor with the televote. I think he was 2nd from last in the televote. I think maybe for the public, this was just too similar to last year. It's like, have we heard this before? Yeah, and I preferred last year's entry. I think he sounded great. The staging was nice, but if you're going to go for something dark, like dark staging that becomes light, you're going to go for John Lundvik, because that aesthetic was more bold and just impactful, whereas his, I felt, was almost too pared back.
Yeah, it was. I actually liked his grand final performance better. I thought somehow it just sounded better. The overall something was lifted and something worked better, and maybe that's a good thing. The fact that he must have changed something. John was doing what he did better, so I could see why it wouldn't have made that enough impact.
Yeah, I think Nano was a surprise that it did so well with the juries, because I had not anticipated. I mean, I did not like the song in 2017. I wasn't immediately sold this year, but it certainly grew on me in the week since the first semi-final. But I think, again, there was kind of sort of a diction problem, and I think his style weirdly was sort of quite mumbly, which is why perhaps the impact had not necessarily been there for him. So I was surprised it did so well in the jury vote, and then was kind of wondering, like, is something surprising going to happen in the televote? And then it didn't for him. So I think a surprising night that he had done so well, but then probably finished up about right in the overall rankings afterwards.
Victoria. Now, she is the woman I feel was among the most wronged. This came real low. She had such an emotional performance. The Ruth Lorenzo-esque rain shower was amazing. I just felt like Victoria was feeling this song. When she burst onto the scene with Save Me, which I loved, it was like, okay, someone gave her this song and she sang it. And it was wonderful. But this felt like she was invested in it. She did co-write it. It was on point. I just felt she was so committed. And then she just does, middling. I don't know what went wrong. I just don't know what went wrong, and I'm quite upset about it, actually, because she sounded great, she looked great, it would have done well at Eurovision. Maybe some people will say, oh, it's a cliche ballad, Woman in Pain, but no, this felt real. Sometimes Woman in Pain feels fake. This was not acting. This was coming from deep within.
It's weird, because I can't remember the song. I've heard it multiple times, but it's just like, it just didn't stick with me. I can remember the rain, her wet hair, the visuals, but not the song itself, and maybe that's the problem. There was talk about how she had a sore throat or something, and so she was saving her voice during rehearsals. Last time she'd had a cold and gave a bad performance in the jury rehearsal, and so she got a low jury score, and that was blamed on that. I don't know what she was like this year, but I don't know, maybe there was something that might have still been affecting her vocals. She wasn't able to give 100%. But yeah, it was a very competent performance. And I sort of think, is she shaping up to be the Sanna Nielsen? Is she just going to be coming back every few years and giving a good performance, and finally she's going to hit the jackpot? Maybe.
Yeah, I actually have to agree with Robin. I don't know what actually went down at the jury rehearsal, but certainly 2017, the reason for her low score then was given that she had a cold and therefore gave a few bad notes. And I actually even think tonight you could hear it versus the semi-final performance. She did sound weaker in places, like not quite able to hit the big notes. I think more practically the problem here, I find, is that sadly for me at least, as a big fan of hers, is I really do not think this is the best song she's sent to Melodifestivalen. I saw a lot of people saying this is the best performance she's given, and I get for her it means a lot because she wrote the song, but she has given better performances in Melfest finals, and I think unfortunately compared to stuff she sent previously, and also tonight this wasn't remarkable. I also think if you look at the jury vote, that there was a little bit of her and Lisa Ajax cancelling each other out, because I think they both got, I think Lisa was 39, Victoria 36, so they both got a very similar score for young females singing sad ballad. So I kind of wonder if we see this a lot, that if there are similar songs, they will cancel each other. I mean, you look at Jon Henrik Mohombi, for example, in a very similar kind of piece. So I think there's some stuff to it there. I think, unfortunately, the song just didn't quite measure up. It's harder to do it with a ballad and kind of do well. I love her dearly. I hope she comes back. Just tonight, sadly, as with so many others tonight, was not her night for a number of reasons.
And now the bottom four: Lisa Ajax, Anna Bergendahl, Lena Hedlund, and Malu Pritz. Lisa Ajax, in the words of Porig Muldoon, a wiwiblogger, one of the best ballads of the year, one of the most underrated songs of the year. I loved the paired back staging. This was so simple. This was Lisa at her most raw. She has never been so emotional. I think this is, regardless of the result, a great step in her career, because it shows she can do songs beyond the typical upbeat pop sassy girl, right? This is a woman. She has moved from girl, my heart wants me dead, 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 to woman who is alive, and so I applaud her, girl. Don't let this result get to you. You are better than this result.
We need to also do a little shout out to Avengana, who were the other ones to tie in 6th place. But I'll just quickly say, most people didn't like them outside of Sweden, but I did. They are my dance band dads, and they just gave a really fun, energetic performance. They were a nice closer to the show, so good on them. But yeah, Lisa, it was, like another ballad, and I can totally see how there wasn't much space that she was sharing with Victoria. I always felt with Torn, like people said the song was originally written for Loreen, and it felt like Lisa Ajax singing a Loreen song, and there was something about it that sometimes didn't quite mesh properly. Her vocals tonight, it sounded a bit strained at times. But yeah, she's another person like Victoria that I would like to see her come back in a few years' time with another song, and I feel like eventually it will be her time, just not this year.
Yeah. I mean, Avengana, I don't have too much to say. It's dance band sound. I don't really like that sound, so I'm not too bothered about their result. I have to totally disagree. I thought Lisa sounded fantastic tonight and was actually better than the Semi or Anders Janssen. I think she was robbed rather than Victoria. I really think this was the stronger female ballad in the field. I mean, the Loreen point, I don't know how much that has to do with it, because I don't know how much the ordinary Swede up and down the country, the 4 million watching, knows or is aware of rumours about who might have had the song to sing for once. The fact of the matter is, she was on second. We all know that slot tends to kill off performance. And that's why I think this was deeply robbed. I thought this was really good. Really, really good. So I'm dreadfully sad that Lisa did so badly. But I entirely see why it happened. And just, again, similar to the Victoria Sanna Nielsen narrative, hope that she comes back, because I think this was so much better. I mean, particularly in I Don't Give Her, I actually quite like My Heart Wants Me Dead, but I Don't Give Her was dreadful, and this was so much more befitting of her talent than that song. So, yeah, I hope she comes back. She was robbed, and that's the gospel truth.
Okay, next up, Anna Bergendahl. She was my winner. Call me old-fashioned. I love this track. When she goes that, I'm gonna live, I'm gonna glow, I'm gonna love, I'm gonna, whatever she's gonna do. It's amazing. It's very tingle-inducing. I think they've improved the staging. In the semi-final, it was like, she's walking from spot A. You're gonna see her walking to point B. You're gonna see the lighting rig in the middle. Whereas tonight, it was a bit more fantastic fantasy. You kind of got the sense she was going from dark forest to lit forest to glowing forest, magical, fern gully forest. Yeah, she sounded great. She seemed really happy. She seemed to be in the song as opposed to nervous, whereas maybe in the first heat, I don't know, she wasn't giving it everything, whereas tonight she left it all out on that stage. I don't think she'll come back, actually. Like, she said she was only coming back now for this because she loved the song, so who knows if we'll see her again. She's going to be in her scrubs in the hospital as a doctor. But I'd love to see her back at Eurovision one day getting proper vengeance.
Yeah, the thing for me that was just the absolute highlight is when the song finished and she just would look absolutely full of joy. Like, I think a big thing for her is after crashing out in 2010, would Sweden welcome her back? Would she be shunned or would she be celebrated? And just the reaction, she gave this really good performance. The audience loved her. And I feel like that in itself is reward enough. I mean, yeah, it would have been nice if she won in that way. But like a good result. She made it to the final, and I think she's going to go down as being a really beloved performer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of annoyed at myself because I went into tonight fully aware and conscious that this song wasn't going to do well tonight because much as I love her, did not feel the progression, didn't buy into all the Bergen Demption hype. Lots of people were talking about the radio airplay the song has had and were talking this up as being kind of the rival to John Lundvik. And then stupidly, I watched the performance tonight, was like, oh, it's great. She's so happy and joyful. This has improved so much. This could go to Eurovision. We need a good female upbeat song. And then, yeah, obviously the juries watched as she didn't get points from so many of them. So that is disappointing because I think at the least we would have hoped for her to be better. However, she looked really happy in the green room, like after the jury votes come in. She was all happy and cheery. So it's disappointing. I'd anticipated it, but only during the show that I abandoned my initial concern and was like, oh, this is going to do so well, and then was kind of let down by its performance in the end.
Portugal, Austria, Australia, France, nil point for Anna Bergendahl. The last two, 11th and 12th place, Lena Hedlund. I'm glad she had her moment solo. I'm glad she could slay without Alcazar. I just don't think it was necessarily the most memorable performance. She stood inside of a circle.
Her big thing is, would Sweden accept her as a solo artist? Because she's had a long career as part of Alcazar, but would she make it to the final? Would Sweden be interested in her as a solo performer? And they did. She went direct till final, and I think that was the big thing for her. And I think the song is probably like it's a modern take on Schlager, and that's going to have limited appeal because it's not the hippest of genres. But yeah, she did well, and I sort of think she isn't in that position because it was a bad song. It's just that there were 12 performers in the show, and someone has to fill that spot. So it just sadly she was shuffled down the bottom. She didn't do all that well with the juries, and I think it might just have been because it was a very Swedish genre that didn't have much international appeal.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those songs that you get them each year that, like, it's really fantastic in the Melfest final and you need it there, but is never going to win it or do well. I'm happy for her with that solo artist, Jenny, and I do enjoy the song on its own, but I kind of enjoy it as a guilty pleasure, not as something that credibly I would have foreseen challenging for kind of a top three finisher or going to Eurovision for Sweden. I mean, it's fun, it's great, it puts you in mind of Alcazar's greatest hits, but this wasn't it has that schlagery sound that kind of, I think, disqualifies it from ever going to Eurovision because it's so quintessentially Swedish. And also I think where something like Blame It on the Disco from 5 years ago, that at least I think had pretensions where you could see it kind of getting out of the orbit of Sweden and into the Eurovision sky, whereas I think Victoria's, it always felt very Schlager. It always felt very Swedish. I did not think this was going beyond the final tonight, and I'm not that surprised about where it finished when you think about the demographics we typically see voting during Melodifestivalen.
She got her highest jury points from Dana International with a 10. I love that. One dance queen to another. All right, and in last place is the fresh-faced 16-year-old Malu Pritz, I Do Me. I think ultimately it just wasn't the strongest song. It's not an earworm. I find it very juvenile, and it should be. She's a teenager, so she's playing to her age group. In the Battle of the Teenagers, Bishara just felt more complete to me. He was the sweet lad singing this very emotional song, whereas hers was a bit frothy and very High School Musical in a way. Like, we've got the lockers, we're at school. So maybe they cancelled each other out. Maybe he slayed that demographic.
Melfest is always open to young female performers. Everyone has to start somewhere. I mean, a few years ago that was Lisa Ajax, and we've seen Issa, who wrote I Do Me. They've all worked their way up through the ranks, and I sort of think that's where Malou is right now. She's sort of had her debut, and I wouldn't be surprised to see her back in a few years' time with a different kind of song. I mean, Melfest hasn't had a female winner since 2014, and I sort of think they're going to be wanting some good young female singers to be developing, so they can hopefully one year someone will come along with an amazing song and completely slay. Maybe that'll be Malou.
Yeah, I'm disappointed for her because I actually disagree. I do think the song is an earworm and like it. I also think you can see, I mean, I think we said this in the read at the time, but you can definitely see the influence from Issa and Ace Wilder on the performance. She's very much their kind of drag daughter for Melodifestivalen. And I actually think the song is modern contemporary. It sounds like a Zara Larsson song, which I think is a really good compliment for it. It was radio ready. I don't think it deserved to finish there. I think I could have seen it slightly higher up the leaderboard. I think she's great, has tons of attitude, a great voice, and she's literally only just turned 16. I think she was 15, like at the time of, and has just had the birthday, or only recently. But like, the point is, she's incredibly young and incredibly talented at what she does. And also, not to demean Bashara, but I think she did a lot more work on stage than he did. So. I think she will be back and be bigger and better than this. And it's disappointing she came last, and I hope it doesn't dishearten her, because I don't think that was a deserved result.
Yeah, a shout out to Ace Wilder for her Clueless inspired staging.
Yeah.
That was really fun and a really good choice.
Well, that's what we think. What do you think? Are you happy that John Lundvik will be singing at Eurovision 2019 for Sweden? What did you make of Melodifestivalen, and how did your favorite do? Let us know here on wiwibloggs.
And don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you like the video.
And make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on all our social channels at wiwibloggs, and comment, tweet us, whatever you want to do to let us know your thoughts about John Lundvik, because we'd love to hear them.
We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.